Drag Race is not fair. Statement 1 coming in hot. There are queens throughout every franchise across the Runiverse that have been cut near the end or close to the finale, whether that be because the judges decided they were done with their storyline or for some bogus plot line that ended up not really going anywhere. Sometimes it is quite simply that this contestant did the worst of the bunch, and sometimes the cookie just crumbles a certain kind of way. The thing is with Drag Race though, is they pick and choose when storylines matter. They pick and choose when a lip sync matters. Everything in Drag Race is contingent on it matters until it doesn't. That's a phrase you'll hear on this channel a lot. Today I'm going to be talking about contestants that I think were snubbed near the end of the competition of their respective seasons, and I have 5 contestants on here who genuinely the judges were living for. They had a great track record and then they were out. And then 5 contestants who, in my delusional brain, were doing really good and the judges just never recognized their talent or skills or successes, only to cut them near the very end because they had their eyes set on somebody else. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and you got a big storm coming, honey. Let's get into this list, and I will be organizing them as I go based on fact and based on my own feelings, because feelings are not fact. I remember making a video like this a while back, but that was more contestants that I thought should have won their respective seasons, not necessarily who got snubbed right before the finale, and I know that this contestant was on that list. First on here, one of the biggest snubs to me before the finale is Kita, who I don't believe goes by her former name because of Maga Minaj. Should I not say her name? I don't want to evoke the barbs. Kita of Drag Race Holland Season 2. Kita has 3 wins going into the semifinal episode where they had to do a challenge that was essentially a investigative whodunit kind of a murder mystery documentary. And in all fairness, all 4 contestants did really well. Well, I think there's one contestant who did genuinely bad and somehow scooted through that week when they probably shouldn't have. Anyways, and this entire episode should not have been judged with a bottom in mind. It should have just been a top 4 going into the finale. Drag Race Holland Season 2 is one of those inconsequential seasons where it didn't strictly have to be a top 3. Maybe they did it for budgeting purposes or for the final performance purpose, but I really believe that it could have been a top 4 and just sent them all there. The equally frustrating part about this episode is that Kita lands in the bottom with known cheater in the competition, Vivaldi. Vivaldi had been accused of bringing a cell phone and communicating with the outside world while in their hotel room, something that is a major violation of the show's rules and pretty much reality shows across the globe. Vivaldi was someone who helped out Fred in the prior season, so she already had a connection with the host. There are copious videos that you can find around the internet about the unfairness of Drag Race Holland Season 2, but again, going to the premise of this video, Drag Race is not fair. So Vivaldi scoots through the competition, knocking out other competitors who should have been there over her, just competition fairness wise, and Kita lands in the bottom with the known cheater and favorite of the host and gets bonked out of the competition. This is such a massive snub right before the finale because Kita's got the track record to back up that she deserves the finale. The judges had been living for her fashion sense, for her mind. She even got a double win in the Snatch Game in episode 3 because her runway was so next level. This is a genuine, honest, factual snub because Kita did do well in that lip sync. Vivaldi was fine in the lip sync, and Kita deserved her place in the finale. Coming in next is my first Delulu pick, and that is for Dakota Schiffer in Drag Race UK Season 4. This is a frustrating one because Dakota's got, as you can see, 2 wins. Yes, these were earlier in the competition, and one of those is a joint win with Baby. And then she's got her group win for the girl group. But Dakota genuinely had been doing good through most of the competition. She flubbed a little bit during the Rusical where she knocked out that no way lip sync, but she goes home in one of the most frustrating challenges ever, the makeover challenge, which is always across all seasons the most inconsistently judged. Family resemblance in drag matters until it does not. And if you look at Dakota's makeover, they look like they are related. They look like family members. They got on her case for putting Peach and Checker together, but literally like 1 season later in US Drag Race, RuPaul comes into the workroom wearing Peach and Checker. So did those patterns not go together or what? Other part of this episode that is completely unjust is that RuPaul was mysteriously not there. There are rumors that RuPaul was sick. There's rumors that she had some promotional thing that she had to do. No one is quite sure why Ru wasn't there that night, but Ru was not not available, and Michelle took over as the runway host. And that is so frustrating. I am not trying to diminish Michelle's authority as a host, because I heard that she did very well in Down Under 4. The simple fact is that Ru is the host of this season, and in my opinion, if the main host is not there to judge, no one should go home. They did some bit where Michelle gets on her little walkie in her ear and is like, okay, RuPaul said to eliminate Dakota. And you know that Ru was not on site anywhere to do that and was not on the phone. Michelle was obviously and very clearly talking to producers. And then the following week, when RuPaul appears back on the show, they do a double save. Yo, what the f? There is literally no reason why Dakota should have been cut where she was. I think they knew that she was going to do very well in the acting challenge because she is a good actress, and I think they also thought maybe she would do okay in the comedy challenge and knock out some of their frontrunners. And there are other contestants this season who have horrid track records. Were consistently in the bottom or were in a low safe position that probably should have gone home over Dakota because she had been performing well, and she also did not deserve her bottom placement in week 1. That easily should have gone to someone else. Next up is another Delulu choice for me, and that's Vanda Miss Joaquim. Vanda Miss Joaquim is literally my favorite queen from the entire franchise. She might be top 5 queens globally from the show. I am obsessed with Vanda. I'm obsessed with her drag and her energy. What she brought to this competition I think was so special, and I think they recognized her talent, but they certainly had their eyes set on other contestants. This is a wackadoo season because look at it. There are 3 weeks in a row where they double eliminate because Art and Pangina were so trigger happy about who needed to go home because contestants were underperforming in the challenge and on the runway and in the lip sync, and then there's a disqualification. It is the Wild West of Drag Race. This is one of the best of all time in my opinion. Vanda has 2 bottom placements, one in the sewing challenge, which is completely deserved. She sewed something that looked awful, but also her makeover challenge, which she really didn't put a lot of energy into, and if she did, it didn't quite show, which is very sad. But in the final performance, she knocked it out. And in this season, as you can see from the wacky track record of everyone, there are 2 contestants that get to skip a big chunk of the competition, some of the harder challenges like the design challenge and the snatch game, and get to return right after that. Candy Cyanide kills it through the rest of the competition. When she gets into the musical, when she gets into her makeovers, she is locked in, and I think she probably should not have gone home when she did. She would have kept doing well. Kana Warrior, however, continued to do poorly in the competition, and at the very end she bangs out a cool runway, but if you are a returning contestant, you need to be looked at under a microscope. Every single thing that you've done up until that point needs to count. If you went home and missed 3 episodes, you should kind of automatically be in the bottom right before the finale and have one last chance to prove yourself against people that were there the rest of the competition. Vanda could have had another win, specifically in the snatch game. I think that her Cardi B is the best in the Cardi B multiverse. I think she was cut because she was the only genuine viable contender against Anjali Anang, and Vanda probably would have knocked out that final performance and given her a run for her money. Next is a factual snub, and that is Hollywould Star in Down Under Season 2. Hollywood has 2 wins in the competition and multiple safe positions, but genuinely was doing pretty good, and the judges were always living for what she brought on the runway. They loved her energy and they loved what she brought to the competition. And when we get to episode 6, she lies directly to RuPaul's face, asking, "What is it that you guys want to see from me?" Ru asks her, "How old are you again?" And Hollywood, probably remembering a lie that she tells all the time, said, "Oh, I'm 28. I'm guilty of doing the same thing. When people ask me my age, I flat out lie." And Ru gives her this beautiful astrological advice about her house and where it's going to land, and that the world will start to unlock now that she's in this position of her life. Only to realize that Hollywood was lying after checking her sheet. Ru brings this up, that she looked at her chart and found out that she's not actually 28. Hollywood sticks to her lie 10 toes down, which makes Ru laugh, but at the end of that night, Hollywood goes home to a queen who had been doing poorly almost all competition. And Hollywood went home to RuPaul's favorite. This is an objective snub, but you will never convince me that Hollywood did not deserve the finale spot. And I think she was the only other viable winner against Isa Savis Loren, because Gabriella's track record was miserable and they gave Floor dust all season, even though she could have won at least 2 challenges along the way. Hollywood could have maybe beaten Isis. Maybe if the competition was fair. But the lip sync matters until it doesn't, so they probably still would have given it to Isis anyway. Factual snub. Next up from season 12 is a Delulu pick, and that's Jackie Cox. Girl, I love Jackie so much, and her elimination pisses me off still. The thing that's difficult about season 12 is that the finale is filmed over Zoom essentially, and so they could not have brought Jackie to the finale to replace the disqualified contestant because there's not really a reason to do so. But I don't think that Crystal was a viable winner. She connected with Rue and that matters, but I don't think she was a viable winner. And I think with Gigi, she was really strong, but I mean, Jada was the one watching it back. Not that Jackie, I think, was a viable winner. I think she had the same win ability as someone like Crystal. But in my head, Jackie won the product challenge. Jackie also did very well in the Snatch game and had one of the best performances. Jackie did very well in Grey's Anatomy and probably should have won that as well. And to get cut right before the end when she had such a great performance, it is completely unjust and it is not fair. But again, Drag Race is not fair. I would love to see Jackie come back for a Drag Race All-Stars in the US. There's rumors that she's gonna be up in Canada's Drag Race. I feel kind of funny about that since she hasn't performed in front of Brooke. That's a different conversation for another day. In my Mocha fantasy, Jackie Cox makes it to the finale and deserved it, and probably should have had multiple wins up until that point. Next up is another Delulu pick, and that is from Drag Race Thailand season 3. That is Nan Spira. Nan has one singular win, and that is at the ball, which was a rough ball. And Nan had been doing very well up until the finale. She did good in the improv and acting challenges. She killed it on the runway week after week after week. I think that Nan easily could have gone to that last episode with a couple wins, but she goes home against someone who connected with Pangina, and that is Spicy Sunshine. Nane's fashion sense was the next level, and not saying that that's the only reason that she deserved to go to the finale, but it certainly matters and counts for something. If your drag is good, that should be an extra defining factor. Nane's got two of my favorite looks from that entire season. One where she transforms a hat. It is so nuclear levels of you gotta go look up that runway. And then her heart runway, her sugar daddy runway. There are so many good ones that Nane's got, and I think that she deserved the finale spot, specifically over Spicy Sunshine. She should not have gone home in that week. She also killed that Call Me Mother lip sync, no matter what anybody says. That is a wordy song, and for someone that doesn't speak English fluently, to be able to kill that and do cartwheels in a full gown, that deserves going to the next round. And guaranteed, Nane would not have bombed that talk show challenge right before the finale, and we would have been spared all of that awkwardness of the camera just sitting on Spicy as she sits there in complete silence with the guest waiting for the producers to tell her that time was up. Next is another Delulu pick, and that is Cheryl Hole from Drag Race UK Season 1. Now here is the thing. Here's my thing. I am a Delulu Cheryl Hole stan. I love me some Cheryl. In another timeline, Cheryl could have gotten a win for the Snatch Game. And in the correct timeline, Cheryl should not have been in the bottom at all during the makeover challenge. It is crazy to me that they put her in the bottom when they were Cheryl's track record is not very good. This is completely a delusional choice, and I understand that. This is my fantasy, and in that, Cheryl snagged 2 wins before the finale. Cheryl's got a couple of struggle points, but I think that she genuinely was such a character this season and was such a strong personality for the first Drag Race UK, and I just don't think they ever recognized that power that she had. It took her going to Canada's Drag Race for the judges to really give her the praise that she deserved. And even then, she has a bottom placement there that I don't agree with. Cheryl's a star and deserved the finale spot, and she's sniped out by someone in this competition that was doing well, but performed poorly in that lip sync. I think that Cheryl was snubbed of going to the finale because the judges just didn't see the thing in her that was very apparent to a lot of others. Next is a factual snub from Drag Race UK Season 2, and that is Ahura. Ahura has 2 wins, later on in the competition after the lockdown break, and probably could have gotten a win in that daytime talk show challenge, because I think her character that loved sparkles with the glitter all over her breastplate, that crazy wacky wig, oh, she was so funny, and she broke out early that she didn't take herself too seriously. The judges were always living for A'Whora. They loved her fashion sense, they loved her personality, they were urging her to come out of her shell a little bit more and not be so rigid in what she was presenting, but I think she did that. They just weren't always noticing, because a lot of that rigidity was being broken down outside of the challenges, and she was just very professional in them. Her elimination is frustrating to me because she is in the bottom for being too sexual. She has this weird set about her family member being a pig and a butt, and honestly me too, but her name is A'Whora. A whore. What's the disconnect from her name to the branding of her comedy set? Meanwhile, Ellie Diamond is praised for how sexual she was, and she has this very bizarre, strange set where she suddenly does the voice that Anna Faris does from House Bunny, where she screams, "Ellie likes dick." And it's weird and it's uncomfortable and it's way too over-sexual for the packaging that we had seen of Ellie, and to bash A'Whora for being too sexy, but then not give that same smoke to Ellie was completely unjustified and completely unfair. Drag Race is not fair. And I think they really wanted a Tace and A'Whora lip sync because they had a strong friendship. There was all of the teasing about their romance, but the real storyline that was there was between Lawrence and Ellie. They were fighting throughout that entire episode. There was a huge storyline, massive, waiting for them to take. And I think you could have easily justified both Lawrence and Ellie in the bottom because their comedy sets were just as bad, if not worse, than both A'Whora and Tace. A'Whora's got a great track record and deserved the finale, but they had their eyes set on keeping Ellie for whatever storyline they just didn't pursue. Maybe it was to keep comparing her to Lawrence. There was not a factual reason why A'Whora should not have gone to the finale, and it should have been the United King Dolls in top 4. Also, in a very Drag Race is not fair kind of a way, Drag Race UK Season 1 is the top 3, Season 2 is the top 4, Season 3 is the top 3, and Season 4 is the top 4, Season 5 is the top 3. What are we doing out here, people? Next is the one you've probably all been waiting for, the most objective snub, is from Season 18, Jane Don't. Now here's my thing. I am not a Jane Don't stan. I am not out here sipping on the soda. I like Jane and I think she's fun. I am not a blind stan or anything here. Jane is high every single week until it gets to that makeover challenge where they put her low and the following week they boot her. That Karen acting challenge was dog shit and should have never been greenlit. And I've heard all of the takes that RuPaul gave her less energy, XYZ. I think that Jane did not do great in that challenge, and that has a lot to do with the fact that she just didn't have the references. But again, a Karen acting challenge is hot dog water dog. That should have never made the final product. It's crazy. Jane is someone who is objectively someone who killed her competition from the judges' standpoint. They lived for her for like 9 or 10 weeks in a row. There are plenty of times where Drag Race will edit someone to win a lip sync even if they objectively didn't. And we saw that a couple times already this season. We saw that with Briar in her very first lip sync against Mandy. We saw that a couple times with Kenya, as multiple people pointed out that she did not know her lyrics in those, but they pushed her to the next episode because they had story they were working on with Kenya. With Jane, they just suddenly decided that they were bored of her. In the week before, she has this great connection with RuPaul, talking about how she doubts herself and she gets in her own way, and Ru asks her what's up with that. And Ru tells her, stop it, knock it off. Jane says, you know what, I'll work on that. And it seems like they've bonded once again in the competition. She doesn't do well in that makeover challenge from the judges' standpoint. They gave her some bogus critique about how she and her partner needed to have matching fabrics to support that they were related, but then they did not give that same critique to Juicy, who is exclusively in yellow and her partner was exclusively in blue. But Jane and her partner had to have elements of red and blue on both of them. and the judges decided that they didn't want to play with Jane anymore. This is an objective competition snub, and Drag Race is a reality show before it's a competition. They will specifically create storylines, they will create drama, they will create tension to activate us as the audience to keep tuning in to find out what happens next. And this was one of those moments. They had gassed up Jane for a long time, and they built her up to be this untouchable deity that was never gonna go home, only to suddenly decide they didn't want her anymore. They could have edited that lip sync in her favor. They could have cut out all the best parts of Nene and just kept Jane. This is the most objective, factual snub before the finale, if I've ever seen one, right next to Kita Minaj. They were living for Jane until they suddenly were not, and there isn't a findable reason why they were over her, other than maybe Rue was just so disappointed that she didn't love her Karen challenge that she built, because Jane was not living for this Karen idea, and I think Rue was wanting it to be so much better than what it was. Miss me with all this. The final contestant I'll be talking about today is my last Delulu pick, and that is Clover Bish from Drag Race España Season 3. I like Clover, and I think she's a very fun contestant. She objectively was doing bad in the beginning of the competition. Her greenness was coming out through a lot of those challenges. She claimed to be a dancer, but didn't pick it up during the dance challenge, and the judges reaming her I think was a little unnecessary. They didn't have to pull her aside and be like, hey, you suck. They did, and there's nothing that can be done about that. You can sort of write it off like, well, they also told the entire room that they saw atrocious things on that runway, ripped tights, absolutely horrible wig lines, etc. So that final punch in Clover's gut wasn't necessary. But from an objective standpoint, she wasn't doing good those first several challenges. She starts to open up a little bit during the ball and shows a little more of her sense of style and her commitment to sharing her culture, which I think was special. She has one of the best lip syncs of the entire season with Visa. And after that moment, she starts to break out. She kills it during the comedy challenge and should have rightfully been the winner of that stand-up set. But I think they weren't sure if she would bring back Kelly Roller, and that was the one that they wanted to bring back to the competition for whatever reason. And then Clover keeps up with Petita in the improv game show challenge, where she should have gotten a joint win with her. And she was definitely Flopiana Grande in that makeover challenge. But was Hornella the worst when Kelly was right there? I think it would have been a great story if Clover won the comedy challenge, brought back Kelly being her friend, and then 2 episodes later sends her home right before the finale. Again, going back to Drag Race Thailand Season 2, if you miss several episodes, you need to be looked at with the finest microscope. Everything needs to be taken into consideration right before the end. And the reality is that the Javis in particular come off very Latin-phobic towards her. They come off misogynistic and femme-phobic towards her. The fact that she comes out in one of the coolest finale looks, and they literally both look like they're smelling farts. They don't clap for her, they don't cheer, they don't make any noise for her at all. It is just smoke and dust and anger. And there's no reason why they were so mean to her. There's no reason why they hated Clover Bish so much, but they did. And in my Delulu world, Clover has at least 2 wins going into the finale and deserved a final placement over someone like Kelly Roller, who did miss out on several episodes, did not do very well in the competition, and was very clearly favored by the judges. There are plenty of other Drag Race contestants that I have the most delusional takes for, and I might do a video at some point sharing my Delulu list of all of the contestants that I think could have gotten wins that didn't. That's definitely a possibility. Let me know in the comments below who you believe should have made it to the finals that didn't. Who got cut right before the end that didn't deserve it. Make sure to check out my Patreon if you would like to see these videos a little bit early. There's also the Extravaganza Extra membership. Thank you for watching. I will see y'all on the flip.